Way, welcome everybody. Tuesday post market, blah 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 blah. Really not too much to talk about. We spoke about the gist of things on Sunday, and yeah, I just want to touch base on a couple of things. Again, the post earnings reaction. I think that's kind of where the juice may be at until we get through this week. Other than that, today you got a boatload of numbers coming out today, tomorrow morning, today after the close tomorrow, and then you got the Fed, whoop, right smack in the middle. So for obvious reasons, there's a lot of risk involved here. But there was one out there today. It doesn't catch a lot of flow, so I had no shot at it. I don't know if any of you guys played it out there. Whirlpool, and they don't all do this, obviously, but even for a swing, if they're red and they don't have to squeeze that same day, you might have a sweet entry on it. But you can see this Whirlpool had a significant, well, like most of the equities out there, had a nice rally off the lows, but you start rolling that chart back and you see an absolute menagerie of price action here. Look at this. All right, so this thing topped out even before, you're talking about late 2017, and look at this vicious downtrend in this thing. And again, off most of the earnings, pretty much has gapped down, except for look at the last two. The last two here now, you have this thing showing signs of bottoming. And this is what we spoke about. So this thing was getting beat up pretty good in the aftermarket, opened up lower, and look at this reversal. Anybody catch this at all today? Even intraday? Was anybody eyeing it? Watch this. Look at this. Can you guys make that out? That's why I like to put the line charts. Hold on, let me do that so you guys can see it better. All right. So that's the 5-minute. Look at that. Open from the open. They couldn't get enough of it right from the open. All right. So that's kind of yeah, they did, Tyler, and that's what I'm trying to paint the picture here. That's what I'm trying to. That's the point I'm trying to get across here, is that the worse the name looks, the better. Okay, you know what I mean? And then you want even the news out of the quarter. Let them miss, let them cancel guidance, let them throw in the kitchen sink. And then you kind of have to judge both, flow and price action. Here, if you were watching it, you could see they were really, buyers were pretty aggressive here. We didn't see any flow in the name. This is not a name that trades a lot of sweeper activity. I haven't seen sweepers in this thing in a long time. But it was pretty obvious, off the price action, if you were interested before this took place. What kind of got me? I was surprised. The Caterpillar. Now, granted, that quarter was awful. All right, the quarter was awful. But that's what we were looking for. And, I thought she would squeeze hard yesterday. She squeezed today a little bit. And we'll see what happens. Maybe we see some even better looking flow post earnings and could set up an entry here. You don't want to force it. You don't want to force it. You want it to line up because, listen, maybe the market, maybe the worst isn't factored in, and that's something to consider, and that's where I think the price action and the flow could be a help. I was looking for a little either more aggressive call sweeper activity, like I really wanted an appetite for it, or something big enough that would, leave an impact on me. There was some smaller call sweeper activity that came into the weakness yesterday. But again, if you were eyeing it for weakness or for trade, it was worth a shot. It was worth a shot. A couple of us in the room took a shot on April's. A couple other guys traded it with some Febs, I think they were. So, but yeah, that was one I was looking at. We got a couple coming up. We already spoke about this, like Mohawk. See, again, it gets a little tricky because we've had squeezes off the lows here. But look at this. Okay, we went over this on Sunday. Another one would be the Masco MAS. This is a little cheaper price stock. All right, so and the easy way, somebody was asking me, depending on sectors and all this stuff, the easy way to look at it, in my opinion, scroll back on the chart. If they started selling off early in the year as opposed to October-ish and, started to roll over with the actual market, as long as they were selling off earlier in the year, that it would fit the bill. Okay, and the logic, just if you're wondering, the logic is that the quarter is bad, the guidance is awful, but this is what the price action in the stock has been signaling the whole past year now. All right. Names like NVIDIA, they got beat up, but they, a lot of tech didn't start selling off until the markets rolled over. So they didn't have enough time. They didn't have enough negative news to digest. Okay. So the worst may not be factored in. Like some of these software names that are out there, if they miss, they're going to get lumped. You know what I mean? They're going to get lumped up because a lot of these things held up well. I mean, for crying out loud, they were sitting near right off highs. All right. So if they happen to warn or miss and they're trading at a multiple like they are, they're going to get beat up. Whereas opposed to negative news, these things can, bad news, these things can, the other names like a Masco or Mohawk can bounce even off the worst of news. Oh, another name that piqued my interest today was this PII. This is Polaris. Again, another disaster you can see here. All right. So had the characteristics, gap down, started to show some nice price action. Actually went red to green. As far as the flow was concerned, I couldn't really tell. I'm going to have to wait for open interest tomorrow to be sure. But it looked like some put selling and some call buying. All right. Polaris, this thing is, aren't they the quads and stuff, Paul? I think, isn't that what they do? The off-road vehicles, all that? Snowmobiles? Yeah, that's what everybody's saying, snowmobiles. Yep. Indian motorcycles, too. So, probably a trade war thing. Probably a trade war thing. The other thing with these names, too, all right, if you get some, good news out of the trade war front, and these things hold up well, because that was, that's what you're worried about, how they would react off earnings. If they hold up well, even if you're not getting that big squeeze, if you're looking to swing these things, I'm talking now, even if you're not getting the big squeeze over the initial couple of days you're in it, you get a positive headline from the trade war front, and the likelihood is, these things can squeeze. All right, so that's the whole play behind these, and it's worth waiting to post earnings. Some of them gap and go, but there's more than enough where you should get some opportunities. Here was the other one. They reported already. You guys know this name, right? Apple out, Abby saying. Thank you, Abby. Let's see what's going on there. Hold on.
Says Q1 iPhone revenue 51.98 billion. Shares now reversing on Apple. 159.95 the high for Alpha Alpha Papa Lima. No change to Apple's dividend. Again, Apple beating by a penny, also beating on revenue, hitting a high of 160.50.
So now Apple beat, but they're going to want to hear guidance, and they're going to want,
Apple sees Q2 gross margin between 37 and 38%. API data showing smaller than expected build. Waiting for those numbers now.
Yeah, I think
Apple CEO Cook says, while it was disappointing to miss our revenue guidance, we manage Apple for the long term.
Yeah, God bless America, Cook. Like anybody wants to hear that out of you. In other words, are they going to guide any worse than the warnings they've already gave? Because, you might have some of that factored in, but we'll see.
The company will revert to setting iPhone prices in local currency in foreign markets in hope of helping the sales there. That in an interview.
Yeah, you're gonna have to sit tight there too before you see a true reaction. You scalped it already? Well, look at the moves. Look at these moves. They're crazy. You are a degenerate, Paul, but that's okay. We love you. All right, so yeah, so even names like that, like Apple, I really, have no feel. I have no feel there. And what I want to see, guys, and we're starting to see it, but I don't want to get too giddy about it yet because it's earnings season. But I want to see the better looking flow come in the other stuff. We don't want to see it in the Apples, the Netflixes, and Facebook. It's okay to see that, see them catch sweeper activity, periods of time and spurts. Okay, and it's okay to see these things get bought or some weakness for a trade, but we want to see the quality action start to focus on the names that have been buried alive for a long, long time. And we already, there's no reason to go over the reasons again. But the rolling bear market down, we want to see the rolling bull market on the way up. And that could be a really good thing, because the good thing about a rolling bull market is that they don't run away from you. Okay, you see what this market did here? All right, the squeeze we had in SPY like this, these type of rallies, they run away from you, completely run away from you. So even if you're fortunate enough to, again, I'm talking about positions here now. If you're fortunate enough to get in early on here, okay, if you're reluctant to chase, okay, that's your only entry realistically throughout this whole move. All right, and it makes sense, right? You don't want to chase because you don't know early on if that rally is just going to be one of these short-lived squeezes, or it may have, some more legs to it. But the good thing, if we end up in a rally, like I'm saying, out of this eventually, the rolling bull market, that's where you get those higher lows and that type of scenario. All right, so the market almost feels like it's not doing much, similar to what we're going through right now, kind of, right? When the market's up, you feel like we're rallying back to new highs, and on a down day, people are calling for a test of lows. All right, so you get into that type of environment where the market doesn't feel like it's doing much, and it's choppy and it's grinding, but underneath the hood, you're seeing individual names outperform. Okay, so that's the luxury of that type of environment coming out of a bear market, a correction, or whatever label you want to put on this. All right, so we'll see. We'll see. But we're seeing some really early signs of that. But again, the reason we may be seeing that is because it's earnings season, and we're seeing call buying in general. So these names are catching call activity. All right, but you guys have heard me say many times, I like this stuff that's seeing the best call sweeper activity out there. The better looking orders out there, the more aggressive type of action. I like the groups and the names that they're going to. And if we can see that continue, on a post earnings basis after these names report, that could be a good sign. And one in particular, like automatically everybody thinks a bearish scenario, but we've seen gold and the market rally together in the past, right? And usually when the Fed's getting involved in a good way for us, the possibility of that, it is a good possibility of that. And we're seeing gold strong and the miners, which we haven't seen flow and price action like we're seeing in the miners now consistently since, a long time. A long time. It's been out of favor for a long time. So Apple's ripping, you guys are saying? Yeah. Well, ripping, I mean, she's up. She's right here. Yeah, this thing got beat up pretty nice. Got beat up pretty nice. So we'll see. But yeah, so like the gold miners, again, you know what? You don't want to chase anything. You want to try to wait for even these type of fades here. Where they take a breather. They're a lot harder to buy then. But if you're bullish on these things and you think, this potentially could be a bull market in the sector, this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about, even for like the overall market. You see this? You see, if you were leaning bullish and you were looking to buy pullbacks, this is ideal. Right? You got some lower highs here. You got a trend. You got a grindy, choppy trend higher. And you talk to riffraff out there, like you'll talk to a lot of retail traders out there, and they rather have this, right? They rather have this. Okay, why? Because they like to get sloppy. They like to buy Amazon, they like to buy Amazon initially over here, and then they'll buy it again over here, and then they'll buy it again over here. That's how riffraff play. All right, instead of saying, I'm going to buy Amazon here and either raise stops or roll my option positions, they like to climb the ladder until they get caught. That's so retail, they almost get discouraged unless they see a rally like this. Right? You hear them say, oh, it's chop, getting chopped up, chop. But ultimately, if you are, if you're playing the game the right way, this is what you want. This is what you want. And again, you got to be leaning bullish though, right? And that's where the flow comes into effect, right? That's where sentiment can play a big part. I'm talking about now the overall market if it plays out like this, because you get these dips and you're going to have sentiment on your side. And if the flow is there, you got flow coming into it. And that's what allows you to stay bullish and buy these dips rather than, ignoring them or getting shaken out. All right. But so we're seeing some sectors, some names out there trying. Okay. This could be just a weak dollar play, more than likely. Look at this gold. Now look at this gold. And then eventually you get where these things get loose. And GLD right now is been getting loose. So it's not all heartache. It's not all pulling hair and pulling teeth. But look at GLD. Was due for one of these. All right. Anyway, so that's what we're looking for. We're hoping for once we could get through some of the big numbers out of earnings season and the Fed here, and we'll see what happens. All right. A couple things out of today. Yeah, you had a lot of earnings activity out there. So I really don't like to talk too much about earnings flow, good or bad. I think it's a crapshoot no matter what. You know my position on earnings. It's not that if it was easy as earnings flow fails all the time, that would be easy, right? You could short it. You could just fade every piece of sweeper activity that comes into earnings. If that was the case, that it's not that easy. What makes earnings season tough, frustrating, and difficult all at the same time off sweeper activity is you more than likely will win more. There are more winners than losers. Okay. And my definition of that is every name that's reporting earnings, if they catch sweeper activity and you play each and every one of those names and you manage your bankroll properly, I believe you will come out a net winner. Okay. But who's doing that? Right? And the ones that you probably will leave out that you don't like probably end up being the biggest winners. So you're behind the eight ball no matter before you even start earnings season. With flow or without flow, it doesn't even matter. But with flow, even you're behind the eight ball before you started. All right, so that's why I don't want to get too hung up on some of the earnings flow out there. We see some big orders. You see some decent looking orders come in, but you got to take them all with a grain of salt, and you want to be prudent about it. The best way to approach it, you like the flow that comes into a name, wait till they announce earnings. If the stock is still there or there's some weakness, you can either jump in at that point, or in my opinion, you wait to see if those earnings players come back and add to their position. If they liked it before earnings and the stock is down off earnings, they should like it even more. And that's the way these guys play. All right, we've got those of you who follow Flow out there and been in the Steam Room or followed me on Twitter before the Steam Room, you guys know the best action is when they continuously and aggressively build positions in a name when it's not doing a thing or trading lower. There's no better action like that, right? That's what we label sharp activity, right? The ZAYOs of the world, the QSRs of the world. That's the real deal buying out there. Whether it works out or not, that's the real deal buying out there. So you like some flow into earnings, wait and see if they come back after post earnings, and it makes it even that much better of a setup. But aside from that, I think the most interesting activity out of the day today was, and I wasn't expecting it, but VXXB put sweepers. All right, so it was late afternoon, and let me pull it up here so you guys could see. Now, at first, there was some block activity that came in. And I said to myself, all right, these are blocks. I'm not going to get excited. A lot of noise out there this week. Sweeper activity is the only thing I'm going to take notice to. And then you had some aggressive sweeper activity to follow. So here was the blocks came in February 8th. Does this it here? I think this is it. No, this is it. That's not it. This is it. That's not it. Hold on a second. Where's today? Dang it. Oh, here it is. All right, so this was the initial bet. The initial order of that flow there. All right, so you had an opening block here, February 8th, next week, puts. All right, so they're betting on a lower VIX or VXX. VXXB is the new VXX product, by the way, for those of you who may not know that. And then, so you can see here, they come in and then they start hitting this week. But all right. So when we see that, for example, if we're a lot of times we see this type of action come into selling or the initial stages of a squeeze. You know, when we see that, and depending on what they're playing here, they're playing weeklies and 2 weeks out. So this tells us somebody out there is betting on a short-term squeeze, short-term rip, whatever you want to call it. If there's anybody left to be squeezed, I'm sure there are. But you can see here, they didn't give up there. Look, here's another one, cheap too, quarter. And here's the tally on the February 8th. All right, and here, look, you can see they swept even more weekly. Here's the two tally lines right here. 14,000 for next week and 7,500 plus for this week. All right. The issue is you got the Fed tomorrow, and that could be the catalyst for it. So, you know, we can, I guess, lean bullish into any weakness based on this on an intraday time frame. You know, thinking, you know, somebody's out there playing for a squeeze, an aggressive player. But other than that, you know, if we didn't have any big catalyst like the Fed, that would be a great indication to try to lean bullish over the extreme short term. You know, for a squeeze, for a rip. You know, some of you may be saying the catalyst, you know, that's a good thing to have. In a way it is, but in the way, not when it's an obvious catalyst, because, you know, when you have that obvious catalyst like earnings in the Fed, there's a lot of this stuff that comes in that's not betting on a direction. They're hedging and protecting against a certain direction. You understand? So it takes away from the juice. When there's no catalyst, that tells you something, you know, the sweeper probably likely has something up his sleeve. And then you get like a tape bomb from Trump or something like that that helps out. All right. So in my opinion, that was one of the more notable things today because of earnings flow. All right. So something to keep in the back of your mind, especially if you can be tactical, short-term trader, intraday type stuff. Let me see what other names, and then I'll get to a couple of questions. Even earnings flow. There was one name in particular. Hold on. CT. What's Apple doing? Oh, nice. Yeah, CTXS. That's it. So CTXS. This is a name. Doesn't have earnings. Had a nice squeeze off the action. Was down about $1.30, I think, around there when it caught some sweeper activity. They hit it a good 4, 5, 6 times. So some decent action. Had a nice squeeze, faded with some of the stuff later in the day. Still net up from where they hit it. Now there's no earnings involved there. They played Feb 105s, if I'm not mistaken. So the only other catalyst out there could probably be, it's a software name. Microsoft is reporting. Could it be a play on that? So that's the risk you run during earnings season. But again, you like it. You think you could get a quick trade out of it, a day trade off the action, or you're looking to flip it before Microsoft earnings. You're not looking to go too crazy here, being its earnings season. But that was one name that caught some half decent sweeper activity that didn't have earnings involved. Home Depot was another name, came in later in the afternoon. That again, the strikes didn't catch earnings. I don't know. You guys know better than me. Do you? Is there a Lowe's out there reporting that I may not know about? Is there anything that can affect a Home Depot for it to catch sweeper activity that doesn't catch earnings, which is only what, a week out? When is earnings here? Yeah, so earnings are late February. Lowe's 227. So that doesn't fit either. All right. And what I mean by that is this. Home Depot reports on the 26th of February. All right. And not a lot. You can see not a lot, but this is what I like about the action. See, comes in a little under the radar jammy for next week. All right, he could have went out another week or whatever to catch earnings. Right? If he's playing a run up into earnings, or there's no excuse unless he's got maybe something else up his sleeve. Or like I said, Lowe's was reporting, which is not, so I don't know. But paid $4, and then you can see again, right? Comes back and pays up for him. So even though it's small, I like that that aggressive behavior, right? He's paying up in a market like this. He's not waiting. So he's chasing something. He's going after something. May not be in a huge way, but he's going after something. So that's another name to keep on your screen. So you got CTXS, Home Depot. What was, some of you members, throw out some names today. We spoke about the miners, but yeah, the flow in the individual names, the miners just keep coming. This thing, they were buying, that's not, I keep hitting that up and I'm like, what the, hold on. The old Barrick Gold, GOLD. Just they nonstop buying all day again today. So they've been buying. They actually, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, they were buying around this niner. That's what I remember around it. I don't know if it was on that day or whatever. And then, little buying each and every day down here. And now the flow's been picking up. The pace of it's been picking up. Today, nonstop, all day. I think March calls, they bought up over 15,000 of them. And then you had another 5 lines underneath it active with buyers. All right. So again, the gold miners, sweepers are showing an appetite there. PAAS, that one caught some buying yesterday, some more buying today. For those of you who like to fool around with the little guys, I think they've been moving though. Yep. AUY, Umana. This is one Sean, who's a member of private Twitter, had an interest in. He was asking me about it. And these things are cheap. $2, $2.50, $2.70. That's a little score. Yesterday there was another one, BTG. Is that it? Yep. BTG. That's another $3 jammy. And AG. That's silver. Caught some action today. So more than likely you want to wait for a little breather here at this point now. All off nice little niner lows here too. All right. You guys have some names there. Yeah, CGC Still seeing flow. I don't know what you do with it up here, but I guess today was down. You had some weakness. So, Georgie, if you could get a little breather here, you're still going to be extended. You're still going to have this huge extension. I mean, this thing's up in a straight line. Was Cron down too, finally? Not much, right? This is the one with the best action. This is the one. Net overall, this is the one with the best call sweeper activity. Yosti, intraday. Yeah, remember, had like a reversal, right? It was up early on in the morning. Yeah, these things are strong. And I'm sure Yost, what's going on, they're catching some shorties here and there, right, in them. So, initially, they hang up there for a bit. Even if they're looking to pull back, they hang up there a little bit because they get some riffraff shorties caught up. And then you got this one here. I think we spoke about Saturday. If not, I'll bring it up again. ACB. Same thing, little, not as dramatic, but a rally off the bottom there. And steady flow throughout. All right, so those are the wee names. Some of these things are too hot. This one not as bad. At least you had a little pull here. And this wasn't a major run like that Cron. What else? Cash said NIO did some sort of secondary in the after hours. I don't know how much of an effect it's going to have on the stock. May give back today's gains. Yeah, it hasn't been doing much to begin with. And they've been buying this name for a while and have been rolling out these big positions, every month. There was action there today. To be honest, I don't know how much of it's clean, how much of it rolls. We'll see from open interest on the changes tomorrow. But active again, this NIO. All right. I mean, things like this, guys, unless you see, and it's going to be tough in a name like NIO because it's been catching a decent amount of activity. Like this NIO got hot post IPO. I remember, if I'm not mistaken, this thing traded options immediately, right? Weren't we seeing sweepers in this thing right after the IPO? I'm almost positive. Anyway, the flow, they've been active in this thing throughout existence. All right, so the problem there is, even when you're seeing what you think is fresh action, you got to keep your eyes on the overall flow because they may just be rolling out a position. Like a lot of times I'd see like some decent size come into Feb calls. And then I look later on and I'd even see it. A Jan position closing, so he's just pushing them out. So for me, what I did is I tucked away some equity in this thing as a lotto ticket that I'm willing to hold until I either drop dead or score. One or the other. All right, so that's the way I'm playing it. All right. On the option front, again, the timing is tough. You're really going to need to see a tidal wave of buying come in, so where you could say, all right, this definitely is not rolling anything for you to have an edge in possible momentum in it. It could happen. It could definitely happen. But that's what you would be waiting on. Yeah, Bristol Myers has, the flow there we've been talking about has been solid. Again, just to refresh the story, you had the gap down on the Celgene buyout news, and the buying started there and hasn't stopped. You had earnings, which got in the way here. Not much of a reaction, considering the move from here to here. Just a little digestion. And today, probably, I would say the first time since earnings that there was a little bit of a pace there, a little bit of a pace. So maybe she's getting ready for a little push out of here. I would definitely keep an eye on it over the next couple days. What you want to see, like we were seeing, not just the big orders come in, because you got to watch out. They can be rolling some of that size. They bought a lot of size down here, a lot of size. All right. I think for momentum purposes, similar to what we were seeing today, you want to see that smaller, aggressive sweeper activity, one after the other, and that's what could get something like this going. We even saw a little buying in the Widowmaker today, which doesn't look that bad, right? Gilead. You can buy it. I'll root for you, I promise. But this is a tough one. You got earnings coming up too in Gilead. Yeah, XBI saw some protection. XBI saw decent sized put buyer. But again, I wouldn't make too much out of it, Yost, because we're in earnings season, So I wouldn't make too much out of it. Because like we're saying, let's say you're long, and I don't know what makes up XBI, right? There's some big names that make up XBI, a good chunk of it. But if you have, if you're a fund, right, you have a position in those names, and you're going into earnings season, you're likely going to hedge off some of that risk. So if it's in, like anything else, Yosti, if it's in confirmation to something you see on your end, then, use that as a little kick in the rear end. But off the flow itself, I'm saying I wouldn't make too big of a deal out of it. Pfizer has had some flow. I haven't seen, nothing to get me really excited about it. Again, similar to Bristol Myers, you really want to see them come after it more than even size. I missed this run completely here because there was buying, but I guess I wasn't impressed by the buying, even though it was a decent amount, and it kind of caught me off guard. But you want to see, I guess I would say similar buying at the least to what we saw back then. And again, you'll see the names just continue, right? They'll hit the board. You'll see me post it, just like Bristol Myers played out. You'll continuously see the name pop up in my post and on the tote board. All right. So, and it's okay to wait, even if you're a little late. You just don't want to chase. Chasing and waiting till you're impressed by the flow is two different things. Two different things. If it runs away from you, it runs away from you. But if you're looking for that special type of flow, you want to see more than one order. One order can mean anything. Multiple sweeps, one after the other, in my opinion, are only targeting one thing, and that's a move higher. Whether it's a short, panicking, or it's an aggressive bull looking for exposure. What other names you guys got? What other names? Anybody watching any earnings names this week to keep an eye on besides the big ones? Like another name, Microsoft, I have zero feel for. I have zero feel for this Microsoft. Again, because they've been flawless, right? Microsoft has been flawless. They got a cloud business that's sizzling right now. And if they don't knock the cover off the ball, I don't know, you might see selling. This thing's held up rather well. Maybe not. I really don't have much of Qualcomm's interesting. PFD, you mentioned you're looking at this as one of those plays. I mean, how could you not, right? How could you not? The only thing I would say about the Qualcomm, it's taken a beating, but similar to NVIDIA, had that rally, like rolled over in October with the market. So hasn't had a ton of time to factor in Armageddon. You know what I mean? That's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm getting at. You know, you had this rally here, which was a nice one, and then rolled over with the market. What news was up here that this thing started selling off of? Was it Apple news or something like that? But wasn't the Apple news positive for them? I don't remember. Maybe it was just the market. Ranchero saying he wants Baba to die, like Nvidia. That's another interesting name, you know. I'm just interested to see. Again, I hate going into earnings hot because I feel like I have no play no matter what, you know. Even for any swing trade opportunities, forget it. I scratch it off the list before, you know, it even gets started. But yeah, you got a lot of names that have come in a lot, and if you see some post earnings buying into weakness, I think it sets up a decent risk reward swing, no matter what the name is. You know, again, I'm saying some of these other names you could jump in if you like them already, you know, because they've been so beaten down, like they factored in the end of the world. But I think any name out there, any name, if we see some decent buying come into post earning weakness, I think it's without a doubt a swing trade opportunity. NXPI. Oh yeah. See, this is more what I'm talking about, Gordon. You know, like look at all this time they had to factor in a disaster. You know, they had a long time, Gordon, right? Yeah, Zitch, I know you like this name a lot. This definitely lines up. You know, lines up like the LRCX, Zitch. I think it's almost a mirror image in a way. Yeah, I remember Qualcomm was going to buy them out, and then with the China headaches and all that, it fell through. Now it's completely off, right, Gordon? That's done. And then this thing, ever since, has just been rolling over, right? Every rally sold. But yeah, this is worth a look post earnings. You know, I know Zitch is going to roll the dice into earnings. I know Zitch can't help himself. But, you know, if you want to take a conservative approach, you know, any weakness, and I can't blame Zitch because, like, if you did that with LRCX, right? If you wanted post earnings weakness, you never got it and you missed it, gone. That's it. Like we were seeing call sweeper activity in LRCX into the gap up. Clean. No rolling. There was no one buying any significant call positions going into earnings in this thing. They were sweeping clean calls into this huge up day in LRCX. You know, and this is what's appealing though, right? Gordon and Zitch, this is what, you know, has piqued our interest. You know, the potential here for something like this. They're not all going to play out like this, but, right, sets up a nice risk reward net big picture wise if you're looking at these things. Yes, Alex, great name right there. That fits the bill no matter what, without a doubt. Without a doubt. If they don't buy earnings weakness here, seriously, I don't know like what's left of this Dow DuPont. You know what I mean? Like if this thing sells off, because the news more than likely, Alex, is going to be awful. Okay. The issue there though is, you know, how awful is it? It may, you know, the news may be bad and may not be as bad as they expected. These chemical names have been disgusting. One of the worst groups out there. So I think, Alex, I think a name like this, you know, especially once earnings gets out of the way and we see the true colors, weakness could be a decent opportunity out of a name like this. And I think even more so, Alex, if you're talking about intraday moves, I think that they'll be more willing to buy weakness post earnings in a name like this if it plays out the way I think. So definitely a symbol to keep on your list. I agree with you 100%. Yeah, Norris, this is tricky for me. You know why? It looks great. It looks great. So for me, like the answer to a question like, what about now? What about this thing? If you get post earnings weakness and you see sweeper activity come in, you could take it for a swing, but you need some decent sweeper activity post earnings to get my blessing anyway, because what worries me is if they sell this thing off post earnings, okay, and they missed the number or they guided down, they didn't factor any of that in, Norse. So you don't want to be too quick to jump the gun and buy this thing because it may have lower to go. No negative news factored in here. And not to say there should have been, because there probably was no negative news, period. So I'm saying if there's weakness off earnings, the likelihood is they missed earnings or they're guiding lower, and you don't know where the support comes in, right? You got a lot of longs trapped in this thing. Right? So, like, for example, the opposite of that, like Apple, okay? Again, you couldn't buy this thing just based off the weakness because it just started factoring it in. But, I mean, look, this thing didn't even rally off the rally, okay? So you had a lot of negative hype factored into Apple, okay? Could they have come out and guided even lower and the stock go lower? Of course, because, they've only been factoring in negative news here for 2 months. But if the news or the guidance wasn't as bad as expected, or there was nothing worse coming out, this is what you get. This is what happens. So say you guys, when the Apple number came out, you guys were telling me miss, right? Well, look, even off a miss, look what you got. That's the difference. That's the difference. And I think it's a beautiful thing about the market right now. I think it's a beautiful thing about the market. But now what you want to happen, all right, what you want to happen for, again, not taking the risk of buying through earnings, what you want to happen is, let's say Apple was down tomorrow off of this. Okay, it would be a name to eye to see if any buying comes in. And then that potential reversal. Yeah, exactly. The home builders, they played out the same way. There's a lot of stuff out there. Like Alex is talking about the chemical names. Oh my God. You could take the whole sector, Alex. The whole sector. I think one already, PPG, one of the big ones, had the worst quarter imaginable. And the stock was up like $5, Alex. This candle right here. Oh, terrible. They've been terrible is an understatement. They have been probably the worst sector as a whole. Right? It's got to be right up there. Them and home builders, it's got to be up there. You had global slowdown, trade wars, you name it, they're involved in it. I think I went over this one, but another good example of that was this URI, United Rentals. Same thing. Look at this. Walloped. And you know what the good thing too, guys? You're not talking about garbage here. Like look at this rally post-election in URI. These are legitimate names. This is not some weed stock. These are legitimate names. So, they're worth keeping an eye on. Again, they're worth keeping an eye on. And I think, I'm a big fan of weakness, but I think ultimately over the intermediate term, the potential flow into weakness is where the opportunity lies. Oh, what's that? What's that symbol, Sherman-Williams? That's another one. SHW, right? Oh, that's coming up. That's coming up. Well, you had a rally here, though. Pretty big one. But again, worth watching. Again, I think the worst one out there, I got you beat, Gordon, is this Mohawk, which, by the way, caught a block today. It was like a $5 million call buyer tied to stock. But yeah, this is the worst. This is the worst. Like you see, like the Sherman-Williams, Gordon, you had some rallies. Like look at this thing. Oh my God, that's ugly. But again, if you scroll back the chart, you get a good picture of things. Like, look at the rally in this thing prior. Like I remember again, the post-Trump election. Like these were the names that were unconscious. Look, here's the 2016 low. Look at that move. So it's basically wiped out all of that. You're back down at 2013 levels. That's a lot of negative news factored in. Alex, it gets tricky now. Well, here's the thing, okay? You had a lot of money hiding out in the Utes. If you remember, we were talking on the webinars, you really had to be careful. People thought in the correction you could buy Utes and you were untouchable. Okay? And when you start hearing riff-raff talk like that, here's what's coming. The bear market tornado will find you and beat you over the head. All right? So now it's kind of, how do the utility names now factor into the equation? The Fed now, are they starting to ease, right? If, like, for example, I guess the play initially was what? The REITs, the Utes, and TLT, right? You buy that. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. You got a lot of macro stuff that will come into play here, because they're not cheap, is what I'm getting at. You know what I mean, Alex? It's not like you're getting a deal here. There's been a lot of money hiding here. Like as opposed to, back here when nobody wanted the Utes. Like sentiment on the utilities here was scorched. So I think it's something to keep an eye on, and see how the market plays out, how things play out here. But they're tough, because people buy the Utes for the dividend, and then what happens, you get some appreciation in the sector, stock appreciation, and then you get sloppy and cocky, and you start treating them like you're treating growth, your growth names, and then that's when they hit you over the head eventually. Yeah, exactly. You get wiped out. So it's good. It's all for pull, but maybe you get even more of a pull. You want to buy them when nobody wants them. Like, you got somewhat of a pull here. Like here, just even on a sentiment basis, nobody wanted the Utes down here. Nobody wanted them. And then everybody plowed into them, throughout the correction. And they had a decent run here, so they may need to breathe it out at the least here. But something to keep an eye on. Like REITs too. See, the REITs, I think, tied to like the home building group in a way, right? So if the Fed is not going to raise, then the REITs become appealing again. And the REITs, unlike the utility names, they were pretty wiped out. But look at this rally. Look at this, Alex. You see this VNQ, the REIT ETF? Look at this. So, the Utes are something to eye off pullbacks. But you got a big rip here now, like a lot of other things out there. Anybody else? But good insight, guys. See, that's why I like talking to you guys. We all could get the more eyeballs we have on things, the more likely we are to not miss certain setups out there. All right, so tomorrow we have a big day, Fed Day, right? Powell has a tendency to fumble the ball at times, so who knows? If they talk about QT in a good way for us in any way, I think the market rips. But what the hell do I know? If they mention they're playing around with that balance sheet in a good way, I think that's where you get everybody who's not in hedge fund money, that type of money, get in. But a lot of people are saying it's too early for that. They don't think that's coming. But we'll see. On the sentiment front, I'll tell you this, okay? And this is what I stress to you guys, and then we'll wrap it up. The problem with shorting hot sentiment is this, okay? All right, we spoke about how you had this big rally here, okay? And the first time sentiment flashed some heat, meaning bulls were getting a little too sloppy, right? They were a little too confident on the call side, was literally right into this niner. You could see the niner there, literally timed it perfect with the niner, okay? But at the same time, okay, even the bulls noticed this, right? Based off the breadth of the market, advanced decline, up volume, down volume, you name it, all those charts look like this. Ridiculous, right? The McClellan oscillator, all of them went from being wiped out right to the heavens, okay? So everybody and their mother sees that. And what happens is, and we've been talking, this is nothing new, we've been talking about this the last week or so. You have everybody looking for a pullback. Everybody. The perma bulls, like myself, we want to pull back because we want another entry, right? We want another entry. So we're looking for a pullback. We know breath is hot, sentiment's hot, we want to pull back. Even bulls who are big picture bulls and are thinking, the worst is over, the bear market's over, are calling for a retest. So they're looking for a test of these lows, right? And then you have the tactical shorts out there, right? They can't wait. They lick their chops for an entry for a short. They get run over here thinking it was just going to be a short-lived rally. They short again. They get run over. Now they see all these breadth indicators, measures, sentiment stuff, red hot. So what do? They try and short into this. All right. And what usually happens, this is what I mentioned, from my experience, when you got that type of a weird setup on the sentiment front, where confidence is back, people are feeling bullish, but they're looking for a pullback. You get this. Okay, you get this. So on an extreme short-term basis, you get days where it looks like and it feels like, because, these moves are pretty big. This is a big move. So even a down day where the NASDAQ's down 100 feels like the market is going to test lows in a straight line. Look what it looks like. when you take a step back and look at it, right? Doesn't feel like it. Where was the NASDAQ down 100? This one right here? Look. All right, so what you get is you get this consolidation here, okay? And then eventually one of the two sides get wiped out. Now the good thing is that this consolidation has taken that bullish extreme sentiment over the short term back to neutral. So we're neutralish right now. All right, so it is possible if they want to. It's possible now, and it's always possible, but now I think they have the room where they wore out some bulls, had them take some profits, shook them out, to where if they want to move it higher, they can. Okay, or another, you like my drawings? Another possibility, from my experience, okay, you get a choppy environment, a lengthy, choppy environment, okay? Because what people don't realize, even if we're going to test the lows, right? We're not going there in a straight line, right? Even if we're going to test the lows, if you told me, Jesus, the market gods came to me in my sleep and they told me we're going to test the freaking lows, what are you going to do about it? We're not going from here to here in 2 days. It's possible, but the likelihood is it's not happening. All right. So what I've seen of these setups a lot of times, you get a little down move, bounce back, little down move, bounce back. And, you get a lengthy breather. You know what I mean? Over time like that. All right, but the good thing about that setup, I know it doesn't look too promising. The good thing is, while the market does that, okay, what usually happens, you get under the hood, you get individual names outperform. Okay, so even though the market's not going anywhere, there are names and sectors that are. And that's where I think the flow could play a big part. We haven't had that. We haven't had that in so freaking long. You understand? Like, if you're a bull like me, you don't need a rally like this to make money. After the first part of this rally, I don't even like this rally anymore. Okay? The last thing you want is a liquidation mode. Okay? If you can get out of this, this is where you can't make money as, my particular style on a swing trade basis. That's where it becomes extremely difficult, right? Because even if you're buying weakness, if you're not flipping into that squeeze the next day, like this, right? Let's say you bought here. If you don't flip that next day, look what you got caught in. So this is the disaster. But if we get something like I'm showing you here, where it's just consolidation with a bearish tilt to it, you get some solid opportunities, especially names that are catching the better sweeper activity. Because the market, you come in, the market's not doing anything. You hear riffraff, oh, it's chop, push, kill me now. But meanwhile, under the hood, the names that are catching the flow are doing really well. All right. And that's what you guys in the room have been, hearing out of my mouth. What I've liked about the flow, even though it's earnings season, the names that have been catching the better looking action out there, not only are they the right names, but they've been performing. Even though the market as a whole has done nothing. All right, so that's what I'm optimistic about. That I'm hoping about. So those are the two things. The other thing would be the communist look on a setup and be, Powell fumbles the ball, and you get Armageddon. All right, and what we'll see put sweepers come in, tattoo everything. Call buyers will go crawl under a rock again for who knows how long, and you get this. Is it possible? Of course it is. I mean, look at the environment we've been in. It's possible. Of course it's possible. That's why you want to keep a close eye on the sweeper activity, and you don't want to fight it. No matter what you're buying, you don't want to fight it. Apple, yeah, Apple. So, I guess maybe these VXX putsy guys, because Apple's going to help the market out, right? Jesus. Abby, you think those VXX puts were playing off earnings? I don't know, right? More likely the Fed. But these guys might get lucky. They're going to get lucky just off this. The QQ, there was big time QQQ action late too. I forgot to mention that. The Aprils, right? That came in with the VIX flow. See, but for me, this does nothing for me. I know some of you guys take advantage of it. You have different styles. Like for me, this does no good. This does no good. I'm going to come in tomorrow into a gap up on a Fed day. And what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be trying to get in the middle of some heat and clip clawing my way to trying to make a couple shekels. But yeah, here was the QQQ action before we run, because I'll keep you here all night if you want to talk flow and sentiment. Where is it? Here it is. So you had this guy here. These were nice bets too. Into big tech earnings. Calls April. I like that they had some time, but not too much time. This was April as well. The 175s. This was the bet Abby's talking about. This was a juicy bet. This was a good looking sweep right here. Opened multiple exchanges, came in late with the VXX. Yeah, Boeing tomorrow. We actually saw a little put sweeper in Boeing protecting into earnings. You got Boeing tomorrow. Boeing's already up at the market. What's Boeing look like? Look at this. This thing's a spit away from new highs, this Boeing, Abby, huh? What a beast. What a beast. All right, so we'll see what happens. We got a lot of action tomorrow anyway. You got a Fed day in this type of climate. You got a lot of action. Like I said, if they talk about toning down the QT, I think you might see some craziness. I think it's a small possibility from what I'm hearing, but you might see this market go cuckoo off of that. Because don't forget, you guys remember we were looking at that hedge fund exposure chart? Hedge funds aren't in this thing at all. They have no exposure. Hedge funds are not in this market one bit. All right? So whether they're looking for a pullback or whatever the case may be, you get something out of the Fed where they think they have to own and put some, they got to chase performance. That's where things can get really frisky here. So we got to be ready for it anyway. All right, and we'll see the flow explode, so we can't miss it. Oh, McDonald's too, George? McDonald's in the morning too. McDonald's has been another great stock. That's a great stock. On pullbacks like this here, if you can wait out some of the sideways, every time you think the stock is dead, right back. Look at this move in McDonald's, George, huh? Look at this move. And again, two decent consolidations, for like a couple months. Wow. Impressive, Mickey D's. All right, my buddies. Have a good night, everybody. Enjoy. Tomorrow, Fed Day. Thank you. Thank you for the birthday wishes, everybody. I appreciate it. Really do. All right. Enjoy your night. Tomorrow should be a fun day overall. Good luck. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.